Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. We've got another video for you today and we're going to be doing a 1000 point list. Now in this video we're going to be including the visuals. We've brought the visuals back due to a lot of comments in past videos that want to see some more visuals. So we're going to be bringing back the old school visuals. Let me know in the comments how you feel about them. So before getting into the video, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It makes a massive difference to how we're growing as a channel. Also, if you haven't already, check out the members area down below. Any support is massively appreciated and it goes back into the channel. For example, we've upgraded our camera, so every single penny from you guys in the members area is coming straight back to you with improvements to the video itself. Okay, so let's not waste any more time and let's jump into this 1000 point Necron list. So before we actually start the list, we do need to mention that you can't have more than 2 of the same datasheet in a 1000 point list because it's an incursion mission. Whereas normally in a strike force mission, you can have 3 of the same datasheet, but in this type of list, you're only allowed 2 of the same datasheet, which makes it a little bit tricky at times, but we'll see how we go. So to start us off, let's talk about the detachment. I've gone with a basic patrol detachment here, no gimmicks, it's only 1000 points. I'm not going to be fitting too much into a 1000 point list, so I've just gone with a basic patrol detachment, so I simply require 1 or 2 HQs and 1 troop selection. Now as for the Dynasty code, now I've gone a little bit boring with this, I'm not going to lie. But Necrons are kind of struggling on the tournament scene at the moment, so we've got to play our best. We've got to put our best foot forward. I've gone with the custom setup of having Eternal Conquerors as well as Relentlessly Expansionist. So the Eternal Conquerors is going to give us objectives secured, and troops are going to also count as double the amount of models that are close to the objective. And then Relentlessly Expansionist is just that 6-inch pre-game movement, so you can get your models into cover or maybe onto an objective, or get you into a better line of sight to target enemy models. So that's what we've gone with today, Eternal Conquerors and Relentlessly Expansionist. So before getting into the actual list, I'm going to tell you what secondary objectives I'm going to be selecting first of all. Now the reason I'm going to be telling you this first is so that you're going to understand why I'm selecting some of the units that I've selected today. Otherwise you're going to be thinking, why has he got that in the list? It doesn't make any sense. So if I tell you this first, it'll make a little bit more sense now. So the first one, I've just gone with Stranglehold. Now Stranglehold is very good, especially when you've got objectives secured army-wide. So for Stranglehold, you simply score 3 points at the end of your turn if you're controlling more than your opponent in terms of objectives, and you've also got 3 or more objectives in your possession. And with Eternal Conqueror, so objectives secured, that shouldn't be that difficult to do. Don't get me wrong, there's some other codexes, some other factions that have also got OBSEC as well, but for the most part, it should be okay to deal with. Now the second secondary I've selected for this video is Ancient Machineries from the Necron Codex. This is going to be one of the Shadow Operations selections, and this is basically what it does. I'm going to read it out because it's quite a mouthful. So once both sides are finished deploying, start with your opponent. You alternate selecting objective markers that are not within your deployment zones, either of your deployment zones there, and those objectives are going to be considered to have Ancient Machineries within them. Now you're going to have 3 of them. Now if you've got less than 3 that are in the no man's land of the game, then you're just going to simply have 1 or 2, whatever is in the no man's land. But you're meant to have 3 if there are 3 available. So then to score those points, either a Necron core unit or a Necron canoptic unit can do an action on those objectives. Then in your next command phase, you just simply score 3 points. Now what's really good about this secondary objective is it's not restricted to doing it once per turn. You can do it as many times as you can do it. So if you've got 3 different objectives with 3 different ancient machineries, as long as you're using 3 different units to do them, you can do the action 3 times. Then on to the third one. Now the third one I've actually left open. Now the reason I've left this one open is there isn't a clear and obvious answer to this one, so it's kind of dependent on what faction you're going up against or your opponent's list in general. So if there's loads of characters, maybe you want to look at assassination. If there's lots of psychic units, maybe you want Abba the Witch. No prisoners if you're going up against hordes. Bring it down if you're going against vehicles and monsters, or maybe even Titan Hunter if you're going up against knights. So I'm leaving that one open, so it kind of depends on who you're going up against. You make that call pre-game. Okay, now that we've got the secondaries all dealt with, just bear them in mind throughout the video. Let's move on to the actual list. So to begin, we need to select a HQ for this list, and I've gone with a Technomancer. Now he's going to also be my warlord for this list. Now Technomancers aren't normally warlords, but I've gone with it today because it's only 1000 points. I don't really put in too much investment into the actual HQ selections here. So as for his warlord trait, I've given him Enduring Will. There's not really that many good options for warlord traits if I'm honest, but a -1 to the damage is probably the best of a bad bunch there. As for the relic, I've given him the Veil of Darkness relic. I never leave home without a Veil of Darkness relic. It's always very handy and it always gets you out of trouble or just gets you somewhere you need to go. And then finally, just for the upgrades, I've given him the Canoptic Cloak. So he's now got a 10-inch movement, he's got the fly ability, and he can also be healing D3 wounds to a unit per turn. Now he's already got his Rites of Reanimation ability, so he can be bringing a core model back, or D3 warriors if you're playing with warriors. But that's the Technomancer all dealt with. That's coming in at 80 points for the HQ, and that's the only HQ I'm going to be taking today. Don't need any more than that. Let's move on to the troops. So for the troops, I've gone with 2 identical units of 5 Immortals. I've left it open for the war gear selection. You can either take the Tesla carbines, or you can take the Gauss blasters. Now both of them at the moment are kind of equal because of the Armour of Contempt ability that's recently come out with the balanced data sheets. So when you're going up against Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Grey Knights and Sisters of Battle, you're going to be reducing your AP by 1, which makes the Gauss blasters only minus 1 AP as opposed to minus 2 AP. Now the Tesla doesn't have any AP, however you're getting exploding 6s, so you're getting lots more shots, lots more hits, no AP, but it will probably balance out once you do the maths. But I'm going to leave that one up to you. If you're going against factions that have got a low armour save, Tesla is probably the better option here. And if you're going against Space Marines and all those kind of stuff, then either way, it's up to you. But all in all, the troops are going to be costing us 170 points for the 2 units in total. This brings us on to our elite slots. Now I've gone a little bit different with my elite slots today, and I've gone with 2 units of Canoptic Spiders. Now I personally love Canoptic Spiders. I don't think they're the current meta at the moment, but they're going to go nicely with my list and the secondary objectives. We'll talk about that later in the video when we talk about the tactics, but let's go through what I've given the Canoptic Spiders. So for both of the models, I've given them 2 particle beamers. That's going to cost 10 points per model for those beamers, but they're 18 inches, assault 6, so that's going to be 12 shots with 2 of them, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So basically for 20 points in total there, I've just given my faction 24 strength 5 shots. Okay, it's only 18-inch range. They're going to be moving forward, and most importantly, they've got the Canoptic keywords. If I wanted them to, they can be doing the Ancient Machineries action. And with one of them, I've managed to have enough points to fit the Fabricator Claw Array, so he can be healing D3 lost wounds to a vehicle model. We'll go over that in a bit. But all in all, the Elite is coming in at 145 points. So now we're on to the fast attack, and it's kind of obvious where I've gone with this. We've gone with the Canoptic Scarab Swarms. Now I've gone with 2 units of 5 of them. They've got the Canoptic keyword. They're likely going to be doing some actions with the Ancient Machineries, but most importantly they can be replenished by that Canoptic Spider because of the Scarab Hive ability that those spiders have. So if you lose any Scarabs, you can literally be getting them back each and every turn without a problem. And because I've got 2 of them, I can replenish 1 from each unit if I really wanted to. Now it's not likely I'm going to be losing 1 from each unit, but there are stratagems and shenanigans that we can be doing, such as the self-destruction stratagem where these scarabs can be blowing themselves up in combat, and then my Canoptic Spider just brings it back next turn. But I love the fact that these are so quick, 10-inch movements. You could advance them if you really wanted to, get them on an objective, have an objective secured, loads of wounds to get through. They're an absolute pain in the bum to get rid of, and they're only 45 points for 3 or 75 points for the 5, and I've got 2 units. So that's 150 points in total for our fast attack. Next we're on to the heavy support, and I've gone with the standard 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers. I don't leave home without these either. These are fantastic when they've got the Gauss Destructors. Strength 10, 3 rolling 1s to hit. They can move and fire the heavy weapons. It's minus 4 AP, but the best part is the damage being 3d3. So that's an average of 6 damage, and you've got the potential of doing 9 damage with just a single shot there. Now I always take these in 3s, I don't think 1 is good enough because you're likely going to be dropping some of the dice by the time you got to the actual damage part of the rolls. So getting at least 1 to go through and throwing off that average damage of 6 is enough for me. But these guys are 55 points each, so this is coming in at 165 points for the heavy support. Then we come on to the last battlefield role for the list, which is the dedicated transports. So today I've gone with 2 Ghost Arcs. Now if you haven't already seen our Ghost Arc review and tactics video, I urge you to check that one out. Most people think of them as actual transport options. I personally don't. I use them as battering rams. I throw them forward. They've got the speed, they've got the quantum shielding, they've got plenty of wounds, they've got the invuln of course with that quantum shielding as well. Toughness 6, it's just a resilient model, and with objectives secured it can be stealing points. Whether it's primary points, secondary points, it's going to be taking points, giving you points, taking points from your opponent, especially those primaries that are in the mid-ground area or even your opponent's back line. If you can fly these Ghost Arcs right into the back end, take over an objective with objective secured. Now you may not be gaining extra primary points because you've probably already got 3 primary objectives, but now you're very likely to be holding more than your opponent holds, so therefore that's an extra 4 points there. And then when it's your opponent's command phase, they're going to have less primary objectives held, so they're going to gain less points, and that's what the game is at the end of the day, scoring victory points. So the Ghost Arcs are fantastic at denying points and scoring points. Now we're not going to be putting anything in the transport, we don't need to do that, they're purely battering rams. Now this is quite expensive. The dedicated transport slots is going to cost us 290 points. So not quite a third of our list, but not too far off. So that equals 1000 points on the nose. So let's talk about the tactics for this list. So the Technomancer. The Technomancer has the Veil of Darkness relic, he's got the Canoptic Cloak, Enduring Will. Now he's not really got a unit to be going with apart from the Heavy Locust Destroyers. Now they're going to be picked off in my opinion, because they're just the scariest anti-tank unit that we've got within our list. So being able to bring one of those back each and every turn is going to be fantastic. Now the reason I've given him the Veil of Darkness relic is just in case you get some sort of unit that's deep striking in or strategic reserves coming into our Locust Heavy Destroyers, maybe tagging them in combat. We don't want to have to fall back and then keep getting re-tagged every single turn, preventing us from actually shooting. So that's exactly why we've got a Veil of Darkness relic within the list, so that if they do get tagged, we can zip them off to the other end of the board. They've got the range to still be able to fire those Ghost Destructors, and if they're completely away from all of that problem, they're going to stay alive for much longer, and we want to be firing these things for 5 turns solid. So we're going to be bringing one of those back each turn. We're also going to be using that Canoptic Cloak ability to be healing one of them back, so they're going to be really tough to get rid of, especially with toughness 5 and 4 wounds. So we've got Stranglehold. That's going to be fairly obvious how we're going to be scoring that because we're obsec all the way around. We're going to be jumping onto objectives, starting off with the Ghost Arcs. I want them zooming up forward. They could either be going down the flank, they could be holding the centre of the board. It depends where the objectives are placed, it depends on the mission of course. But I want them to be parking right in front of the objectives and pretty much just screening off from your opponent's army. What I then want to be doing is bringing up the Scarabs, bringing up the Spiders, because we've also got the Ancient Machinery secondary, so I want them to be doing actions as early as possible. The Scarabs will be the ones doing the actions. The Spiders are going to literally just be there, not only to be replenishing those Scarabs, but also they've got a bit of firepower, as mentioned with those particle beamers. And they're also strength 8 in combat as well, so they're a good defense for both the Ghost Arcs, as well as the actual Scarabs themselves. Now the Immortals, both units, are probably going to be staying back, just holding our home objectives, whether there's 1, whether there's 2. They're just going to be holding back. The Locust Destroyers can hold a third if needed, but they're just holding those primaries down, locking it down, and just providing an extra bit of fire support where needed. Now if you're going with the Gauss Blasters, of course they've got a bit more range to them as opposed to those Tesla Carbines. So if you do need to push them slightly forward, just make sure they're still within 3 inches of your objectives of course. Now with those Immortals there is a plan B. Now if there is 3 objectives that are within the no man's land, then all 3 of those objectives are going to have the Ancient Machinery secondary built in with them. Now I'd like to be scoring these as early as possible. So you could potentially take a Technomancer, use the Veil of Darkness relic in turn 1 with a squad of Immortals, and start doing the action with 3 units as opposed to 2 Scarab units, because you've got the 2 Scarab units now and the Immortal units all doing Ancient Machineries. So you're going to be maximising what you're able to score, and if you're able to score 9 points on your very first turn, you're over halfway to achieving that secondary right there. Now of course you've got to stay alive until your next command phase, but if you do manage to get first turn, even better for you. You've got more chance of actually pulling this off. If you go in second, you're probably better keeping the Immortals back and providing a little bit more support for those Scarab units. And maybe those Ghost Arcs can go forward and start tying up units as opposed to just sort of screening off those objectives that you're doing the actual actions on. So that's our 1000 point list today. Try it out, let me know how you get on. If you've got a 1000 point list, join the Discord. We've actually got a channel dedicated to list builds, and members of the Discord, so the Necron community, they'll judge your list and maybe they'll give you some pointers on how to actually improve your list. Also, comment below what you think about my list and how you'd maybe improve my list as well. So yeah, that's your 1000 point list today. All that's left to say, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.